like 10, 15 years ago, and they were saying how publishing houses were telling them that if a hero was a doctor, he couldn't be black. They had to change the color of their characters up into the middle of the 90s to make him a white hero. Now, I just want to, say this for the men in the room. Romance novels are probably the only place in literature that you're going to find black men held up high.
Right.
Really, because to be a hero, he must have integrity. He must be, upstanding, be, fearless, all these good things. So you get this propaganda that goes out there that romance novels, they are realistic, this and that, and the other. And I'm like, why? I was raised by good black men. That's not unrealistic. My dad was a good black man. I mean, I have great uncles. That's why I get my heroes and my guardians for this series from the good black men I grew up with. So if we don't have positive images of good black men and showing healthy relationships between that man and that woman, that's the only place you're allowed to do it. And it's very dangerous. Now, the moment a couple of those authors, and I always give credit to Donna Hill and them, because they kicked the door in and they got their toe in the door. And they held the door open for me because I was a baby. I came behind them. That year, 95 and going into 96, Arabesque was born. Kensington Arabesque, which was an imprint over there. They did so well, the next thing you know, and it was only like 10 or 15 of us writing romance in the beginning. And the beginning being the early 90s. Because Terry McMillan's work is not romance. That was women's fiction, and they had, every guy in there was a negative situation, right? So, but romance has a formula. It has to have a happy ending. The guy has to be a good guy, has to end up with the woman at the end. And a family structure is begun. Now, that said, those 15 authors kicked the door in, so that now there's about 160 black authors. And every single house from Harlequin, which was a known holdout against us, has a Kamani imprint. BET had an imprint for a while, and they sold that to Harlequin. Avon has an imprint. Every single major house, because they were turning down black authors. We, female authors in particular, the men could get in under literature, because they always had, Eldridge Cleaver, Donald Goines, Walter Mosley. They could get in on that side of it. But paperback fiction, like the small, spinners that you see in the airport, which is what is read more than anything else, people want that head escape, we couldn't get in it. So romance, but it had its limitations, because romance had to stay within the confines of the here and now and be a contemporary or be a historical. And there's a fabulous writer who writes historical fiction, and she puts the history in it. Beverly Jenkins, this sister, she goes back and finds the Buffalo Soldiers. She goes back and finds pieces of history, like those people who were freedmen back in the day. And she called me one day, she said, Leslie, she was almost weeping. She said, they said there wasn't no romance back in the day, even when we were in slavery. And she said, I found some letters, because she goes and does that kind of research where she'll go down to the county courthouse and this and that, and she'll get on a plane and show up somewhere. She said, I found a letter that a man who was a slave had risked his life to learn how to read and write, because let us not forget, if you put your eyes out, if you were reading or caught learning or worse, whatever. He learned how to read and write to pen this very short letter to his lover, who he wanted to marry, risk life and limb to hand it off to somebody else who was going across like 25 miles, which, back in the day by horse and buggy, that wasn't like, rolling down a highway, to get the word to her that I don't care what happens, I'm coming to get you. That's one. Then he was already free. She was still a slave. In order to free his woman, he sold himself back into slavery so that she could be free. Now, that is a romance. Beverly was like, she was like, girl, oh my God, do you know what that is? I mean, so we have acts of heroism, courage. We have so many rich stories just right there. They're not all The Color Purple, where the man is stomping a woman into the dirt. This man sold himself back into slavery to get this woman, and this is a true account. So we have authors that bring those stories out. So now, kind of segueing into you know what I do. Octavia Butler always blew my mind. Okay, I say that's somebody. It hurts my heart that she went out of here at 58 years old under spurious circumstances, which I'm like, I still don't understand how she felt like that. But, you know, in any event, Octavia Butler paved the way. So that's a pair of shoulders that I stand on, you know, amongst many, many others, but that's just one. Because she never got her roses while she was here, you know? And they didn't put her face on the back of her books and change her covers, so that people wouldn't know that she was a black woman writing this futuristic, outrageously, just, you know, off the chain kind of work. So I'm like, so she had to hide, you know, her genius almost, you know, and just some of us knew, but it was a small slice of the pie. And it really disturbs me that, you know, a lot of us were reading street fiction instead of giving props to somebody who, she knew rocket science. I mean, you know, Octavia Butler was a physicist kind of mind. You know, this woman was just brilliant beyond imagination. And then, so when the opportunity came about for me to write this, I thought, okay, when we get our chance to put a book in print, and this is sort of my own personal credo, every time they do one of those paperbacks, they do a 50,000 print run. So if they print 50,000 and it goes into a second printing, each one of these books represents about 100,000 readers. Times 12 books, that's 1.2 million people that have this series in their hands. So if I don't put some history in there, and I don't put some politics in there, you know, I've had a right to, you know, play like that. I mean, oh, you'll have a good time. It's not all serious. It's crazy. I'm going to tell you right now, those who have not read it, it's nuts. All right, but it's almost like you have to do a Charles Dickens and put the truth into what is, oh, this is just a story about children in work camps. You know, this is just a story where old white men in hell are sitting at a table that bleeds black blood, metaphor for oil, hello, and are pulling the strings globally, you know. This is a metaphor for the fact that, you know, I have my heroine at one point say, you know, we could be killing vampires all day and all night, but what's causing them? Where are they coming up from? Because we know that there are systemic ills that are happening. We know that there are things that are causing people to be crazy. We know there are things that are causing people to prey on their own, you know, and lack of opportunities and lack of economic access. We know all this. And we know that there are some blatantly evil things going on in the world. I mean, blatantly. I mean, from the power structure. I mean, I don't have to, I'm sitting among people who understand about the Illuminati and, you know, and